G'day viewers, today we're joined again by Drew Wolfendale, the president of Fusion. There's a previous episode of Drew. If you haven't seen that, you're not a true fan of the show. If you like and subscribe...
That was a bit sexy.
Anyway, if you like and subscribe, you'll find out about all the episodes. But, plenty to discuss in Fusion. We can't get through it in just one episode, can we? So, thank you for coming back, Drew.
No worries.
We'll also be talking about how Fusion is going to destroy all the other parties at the state election, perhaps.
Kind of like an oxymoron, isn't it?
Is it?
Well, you're fusing and then you're actually smashing up other parties.
Oh, we'll see. Anyway, let's get into it. G'day viewers, welcome to My First Party, the podcast where we meet people at the grassroots of politics. My name's Owen Miller, I'm the founder of the Non-Human Party. With us as usual, this Apple's sixth most popular creative rights policy podcaster, Mr. Peter Carchiotis.
Oh, thank you.
You have some creative ideas.
I didn't realise Apple was monitoring us, but then again, they are, aren't they?
Oh, they're monitoring everyone, aren't they? What a fraud.
Thanks to Albanese and letting into Coles and beyond now.
Oh, yeah, I wonder, maybe that particular data doesn't get to Apple, but yeah. Drew, don't you think it's outrageous? Do you have the Apple, by the way?
I do have an Apple phone, yes.
They have all this stuff about, how
Coles
privacy
conscious.
But yeah, they have all the marketing about how privacy conscious they are. I think it probably came up with our friend Alice, the cybersecurity person. She was, the way to go, I think, is, Linux manages to have, fewer bugs than other ones. I would say, it's partially because it's open source. Partially because it's less popular than...
Yeah, well, look, I am currently thinking of swapping to Linux on my home desktop, so it's getting that way.
But I guess, Drew, most pressing issue, viewers might remember that there's a state election coming up in Victoria. Melbourne is the capital of Victoria, for those of you not familiar.
With geography.
That's a more polite way of chatting to our American viewers. Anyway, we love you, American viewers.
And Queenslanders.
Perhaps. But yeah, so there was a bit of controversy. This, let's just call her a political crazy person is now enemies with us.
Yes.
The long and the short of it, viewers, is... I think I told you. So basically, I went to her site. She seemed like, reasonably aligned. She was talking about transparency. I think she might have mentioned whistleblowers. Anyway, but then it turns out that's all just sort of vague bullshit. When you get to the crux of it, her supporters are homophobic. I saw she was selling anti-radiation bracelets. And so I thought, okay, I've read enough.
Yeah.
Anyway. But... Well, viewers, sorry if you believe in this stuff, but I guess you probably wouldn't be tuning into it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, if you wear the bracelet.
No, who are you talking about? Who's this person?
Her name's Monica.
Okay.
She's very...
So you went to some party?
Oh, no, I mean, she has an alternate political thing, because it's not a party. And
it's very disorganized.
She's making a big fuss about how the fact that, people are stealing her party name, and it's not a
party. What's her party's name?
She had a group called Reignite Democracy Australia.
And someone wants that name.
Well, Fusion now wants that name.
We've stolen part of it.
I didn't mean to insult your name. But what's wrong with Fusion?
Oh, well, it's only the tagline on the name, but she's very upset.
So hold on. So you guys, your Fusion name is just like your small branded name. So what name do you want your party now to be called?
So for Victoria, the registration attempt at the moment is Fusion Party Victoria Reignite Democracy, which is the tagline. And it's because we're bringing a whole bunch of democratic reform policies to this election.
Okay. All right. And yet you want to devote some time to talk about how some other person is...
Oh, she's suing us.
Well, she's trying to.
Okay. So my point, before you two get quite emotional over my very point and validate my point, that you want to discuss about how someone's upset about the name that contradicts what you're trying to do, right? So you're saying that your policy is going forward is to reignite democracy, right? And yet you guys just want to talk about some petty squabbling.
Uh,
Thank you. Touche's the word you're looking for.
Fair enough. Okay. But anyway, I guess. Okay. So
Continue.
I should clarify. I wasn't part of this naming discussion. You might notice, viewers, federally, fusion is called Vote Fusion for Big Ideas. That was. I'm reluctant to say it was mine. I was definitely involved in the decision. I can remember that. Anyway, unless anyone else is going to take credit, I'm pretty sure it was me. Okay. Anyway, but Drew, I guess, when this lawsuit arose, I was pretty surprised. Like, Reignite Democracy is a pretty vague name.
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't even heard of it, but... Anyway.
Well, she doesn't have a leg to stand on. And it's not even technically a lawsuit yet, so I'm not stressing about it.
What's your alternative? Let's say you lose. You have to pick another name.
Oh, no, we can't be registered. Yeah, it's too late.
No, what? You can't have another name? Oh, so
It's too late,
It's too late, so you can't run.
Yeah.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's not against us. She's got to argue with the VEC, so...
No, I'm not saying it's your decision, obviously. But so if she wins and she's then reigniting democracy, and you guys are just smouldering away, like what happens? What's the alternative? Do you go like as guerrilla protesters at the election? Are we just going to sit back and say, we'll stick our thumb in the ring and just wait for the next one?
Run some independents, probably.
Well, that's my question. Probably, or is that part of your policy? You haven't thought that through.
Well,
there's no strategy.
We've run.
This is the Brains Trust.
We have run independents in the past where we haven't been registered. This is not a new thing. The current people who are looking at running have not considered whether or not they would be willing to run as independents.
I told you when I saw you at the sauna, I should have been your campaign manager from day one.
Yeah,
These are the
I
stuff
think
you've got to
so.
be thinking through.
I should clarify, I'm not involved in the state stuff, so don't blame me. Okay.
No, I'm talking like going back, how this started.
Although I guess, in terms of state politics, my first party is going to be very involved. So tomorrow, actually...
Oh.
Yeah, so tomorrow, Mel One, she's going to be a state candidate for Brunswick. She's chatting with us tomorrow.
Oh, shit.
Tune into the next episode, viewers.
Okay. Under what? Like what's her...
Oh, she's an independent.
Okay.
Not one of the teals, like actually independent.
Or she's getting pushed by a party that didn't get registered properly.
Could be, yeah. Oh, to be fair, no, these people, they don't make it a secret if they are tied to some particular party, yeah.
It's not a secret when that's the case.
But then, also remember, viewers, you'll remember Oscar Yildiz from a previous episode. He's going to be running for state politics.
Is he coming on?
No, but, well, I mean, he might. Oscar, if you'd like to come back. But
We're in the bins out the moment.
We haven't organised it. But
what about the One Nation guy that you said was thinking of coming on?
Yeah,
was his
got to finish that off. Oh, I can't remember his name.
And what about the Greens that won't come on because they said they're scared I'm going to ask them what their views on Israel. They're still
scared about
Israel.
Israel.
Scared about that. Okay. Even your mate who sits in the Miles. What's his name?
Which one are we thinking of?
The one that sits in the local government here.
With Fusion. Oh, yeah, Jay. No, he's from Greens. Yeah.
Greens.
Yeah.
He won't come on either.
Well, I've invited him.
Oh,
Jay, if you'd like to come on. Yeah.
I promise I won't ask you what your view is on Israel.
Okay, but we're getting sidetracked. Oh yeah, so Drew, the stuff about our various enemies and at the moment. Well, one of my problems with these people, our enemies, is that they're populists. But can you tell us more? So I was reading. You were talking about. So one of the things that this woman was saying, she said about Fusion, it's a lefty party, and if she wins in her various legal battles, it'll be one less left-leaning party in the mix whose purpose is to block One Nation. Drew, what do you think about that characterization?
Look, every leftist that I know that is not part of Fusion has complained that Fusion isn't left enough, and every right-wing group that is outside of Fusion has accused us of being leftist. The reality is both can't be true. But
as well, I was most upset about this thing whose purpose is to block One Nation. We have our own purposes. We have our own ideas. Yes. There are other parties where they put it on their posters, like we must block One Nation. Like, I think we've said on the podcast before, One Nation, they're not my favourite party, but I have my own political ideas. That's what I want to get done.
And if that's the way you're trying to do politics, it's just not going to work. That's the reality. You can't run on a platform of blocking a populist unless you are already in a major establishment position. Labour can argue that people should vote for them to block One Nation because Labour is an establishment force. You cannot win against a populist as an outside force arguing to block a populist force. It's just not how politics works.
No, but should anyone make their position just unblocking this other person?
Oh, look, personally, I wouldn't. I don't want to, tell people what they should and shouldn't do. The reality is it just doesn't work, though. So, why would you waste your time?
So, can I ask you, what policies of One Nation do you agree or disagree with?
I don't disagree necessarily with any particular policy because I don't actually look at their policies.
Yeah, that's my point. They don't have any policies.
Because they don't have much.
Exactly, they don't have any policies.
I disagree with their value judgment that they use when they're.
All right. So my question was specifically about policy, and that was specifically loaded because I have no policies. So back to the point that you almost made, and that was whether you're saying you're an established party or not. If you don't have your own policy to stand up on, then you are exactly like any populist party like that with no policies, and you're just flapping around with the political discourse. Either you have some policy that it's backed by it's been economically and whatever your reason is, could be it's a policy, right? Or you don't. You're just in that space, the same space.
There's some middle ground where you can operate on clear principles, because policy is the sort of thing that realistically, to get into the real details, you want to do like costing analysis and things like that. And sometimes, not everyone has the resources to do proper costing analysis.
Well, you may not have to take it to the nth degree of all the thing, but at least it's something that's been considered, right? Not taglines.
So that's what I would call principles. You've got to have at least that much. Yes, I agree.
Well, so actually, Drew, on this point of a party whose purpose is to block One Nation, I was reading. So you were talking about aspirational populism. We'll get to that in a sec. But I noticed a line, quote unquote: "If One Nation becomes the default alternative to Labor, then Australia is not merely facing a protest movement; it is facing a wholly regressive future government in waiting." And I guess, I don't know. I wouldn't have worded it about One Nation, yes.
Well, the reality is that we have a political system in Australia that, without reform, lends itself towards a certain two-party dynamic. It's a function of the system where only one person can win a given seat. It's just the trend that system goes towards over time. There are a whole bunch of reasons for that, which are probably not worth getting into right now. So the reality is, if One Nation sort of becomes the dominant force and successfully cannibalizes the Liberals, which it looks to be on track to do, then it becomes the other half of that two-part dynamic. When you have a two-part dynamic, unless you bring in something else that effectively competes with one of those halves, eventually the other half is going to become government. That's how it works.
Well, so I wonder, can you help us define aspirational populism? I mean, for me, Fusion has always been a party full of engineers, scientists. We have big ideas, thoroughly researched positions, how to solve problems at the root level. And so I'm a bit scared about this notion that Fusion should do anything populist. Can you dissuade people's fears?
Yeah, technocrats.
Not the worst label.
Yeah, I beg to differ.
Okay.
So I'll say fuck them all. Fuck them. I'll guillotine the fucking lot of them. And let's
Any
start.
technocrats?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Fuck them.
Okay.
It's the pathway to fascism.
Yeah. And this is why when you're building sort of any sort of evidence-based thing, particularly with an educated group, you have to have a core value and a core focus on advancing democracy and advancing representation to people. Because if you don't, then the natural trend of that sort of movement, it leans towards technocracy, and technocracies invariably lead to less than pleasant places. Going back to the aspirational populism point, though, I think it might be helpful to contrast it in terms of regressive populism as well. So the sort of the underlying premise of regressive populism is that we had something and it's been progressively taken away or frittered away or sort of exploited by some other group.
That's regressive populism.
And now we have to take that back.
Okay.
The reality is that you can't really take back in that sort of way, because what may have been lost, if that's sort of the situation you're talking about, hasn't really moved. It's more been used. And so it's not really there to take back in a real sense.
Well, I guess like fossil fuels are running out.
Yeah, like if you know, that is the relevant example at the moment. We keep talking about, you know, not having a gas tax or a resource rent tax or whatever. Too much of our natural resource wealth leaves the country. And so now they're talking about a tax, and they're talking about various other sorts of things in that space to reclaim sort of our future. But that money doesn't just exist out there. It's been taken and it's then been converted into other industries or taken overseas to other places and used to spend on other things. And so it's not really there to take back. There's not really a past that you can rebuild, because you can't put the resources back in the ground.
So what are you talking about? They're talking about, like, even from now, no one's necessarily saying they have to, retrospectively give billions back that they've taken. They're saying even stuff they're taking out now, they should be paying a tax on.
The language and the sort of style that regressive populism uses, though, leans on this idea that, you know, the people that took this stuff, we will punish them and bring things back. It doesn't really make sense if you sit down with it.
Okay, but what you're doing is actually punching down on what actually should occur. So what you're doing is creating this, I guess, mythological narrative that no one's actually saying, but okay, sure, maybe there could be some people who, you know, fantasize on that, but it's not reality. Most people are saying pragmatically, this is what we want, this is what we deserve, because it is our resources. To kind of mythologise it like you're doing now, it's like...
So I'm not talking necessarily about the policy, I'm talking here about the narrative.
Yeah, I know.
Like, we also support a reasonable tax on our resources. Like, that is not a controversial policy point in itself, but it's the language and the story that's used to justify that. And so...
Oh, no, I disagree. I think you're creating this myth, this alleged story. It doesn't exist.
I am most certainly not creating this
myth. You are. I'm saying it's those who want to punch down who are perhaps have a view, because I know his view on this, right? And I'm assuming it's similar to, not dissimilar to yours, where we argue about this, because Owen often says, oh, but they've got contracts, right? It's the contracts, you can't change it and this and that. So, you know, he takes a much different view to mine. So... then that it's easy to, if you have that view to begin with as a platform, it's easy then to do this punching down that, well, you know, there is some merit in this, but, you know...
Who's down, who are punching, sorry?
The people that actually, like myself, that say these are our resources, these companies that come in, they're taking the resources of Australia, and they should pay the tax that we want them to pay.
No, I agree with you on that.
But you have said many times and other times about views that the contracts are in place now. It's
it certainly complicates things. Yeah, like, you know, Australia has to be known as like
a fair trader.
Or a nation that keeps its word.
Yeah, look, so the resources are a very small piece of this. Like, you also see people talking about loss of living standards, rising house prices, etc., and that gets blamed on another, groups that can be sort of pushed aside with the idea that, you know, we'll stop immigration, so we'll take back this wealth, we'll put it back together. And that's sort of the essence of the regressive. It's this blame sort of
when you say
function.
regressive, are you sort of like reductive, like we're just bringing it down to simplistic?
It's often reductive, yes.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, for me, okay, I agree with reductive, you know, discourse. That sort of is the exactly what you're saying, but I'm not sure.
The contrast point then is, if you're going with aspirational populism, the narrative is not about other groups. The narrative then becomes about how you actually build things, how you actually build a future of prosperity, how you encourage people to see a future for themselves that they want, that has some value.
And part of that, so that's why I argued from the start when you sort of wanted to punch down on the fact that people are saying, you know, these are our resources, the companies that we decide who should mine it here.
I wasn't punching down on those people. I'm punching down on certain cohorts of people, like One Nation organizers, who use a narrative to take those people and get them to support other regressive actions. And
Okay.
it's that narrative
All right.
of blame.
Yeah,
And
sure.
It's not that there's anything wrong
All
with the
right.
policy, it's the narrative.
All right, I thought you were actually blaming those who actually have that view.
Like I said, we also have the
Okay.
view of, properly taxing resources.
All right. So I guess what you're saying is then how I guess people who are anti something will take what they don't want to be in favour of, use reductive policies to basically create their propaganda. That's all it is.
Exactly.
On the point, actually, viewers, a bit of a surprise. Drew, can we be more concrete? I have got
He's
some
running
samples.
for president.
Oh my gosh.
Do you president of?
That's not a surprise. Okay, I have some examples. Okay, which of these, viewers, I collect all the political merch. Which of these is a populist, and how can we discuss, what did we call it? Regressive populism versus, can you hold it up to the camera? Which one have you grabbed?
Picked up
On this camera.
Australia First one, that's an example of regressive populism.
Can we go through it? What makes it regressive populism?
He hasn't seen
I'll
it
just
yet.
have a look at what's going on here.
So we have Labour, a fair future for all.
Yeah, that's a certain variety of populism, but it's establishment populism.
We've got the Libertarians.
Libertarians aren't really populists, generally speaking.
Because they just have one demand. What is it?
Almost made me spit out my beer. Viewers, if you've seen our previous episodes, the Libertarians
Yeah,
they have
that's
smaller government.
pretty
don't they?
standard for them.
Smaller government.
Smaller government. Doesn't matter what it does, just make it smaller.
No.
You don't like blend agreed?
What's
Well,
cheerful?
not populist or anything. Who's
Nuclear
this guy?
power.
Yeah.
That's one of your faults, Owen. Are you still in favour of nuclear power?
The ban should definitely be lifted. That's for sure.
There's space here in Brunswick, they can build it just...
Whoa. Drew, we got to get to the viewers are being kept in waiting.
Sustainable Australia is not.
We're not going to get any sponsors.
Not
This
things,
dead airtime.
Yeah, no.
This was a great idea. We should have pitched it. That's
Drew, okay, hold on. We got to...
Let's just check what we've got here, all right?
What about this one?
Surprises me with these things and expects me to know what's going on.
Okay. So here's one of Clive Palmer. So he's a rich guy. Many, the Greens and that, they don't like him because he's rich. They don't word it like that, do they? But okay, here's the policy: $1 trillion.
No, he's
for
actually
housing.
a lovely guy. Apart from that.
Anyway, $1 trillion for housing, a home for every Australian. So far, so good.
Yeah.
Especially if they're the right type of Australian. Emphasis on
There's
the right.
that. Repayment of national debt. Oh, that's be careful what you wish for.
It's not my debt.
Zonal taxation for regions. That hints towards populism, doesn't it?
That's unconstitutional, so good luck with that.
Sorry, what was,
We
the last one?
can change the constitution. Our regional taxation for regions. Our regional communities are the backbone of the nation.
Are they still?
Are they? Anyway.
Well, the data centres now taking over.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's basically talking about special economic zones, which at the moment...
Like the Israel up in far north Queensland that, Gina wants to build.
Did you hear about the viewers? You might not be aware, but so Gina Reinhardt, Australia's richest person, she's also in mining. She was chatting with Pauline Hanson from One Nation. They're suggesting giving Israelis free land in North Queensland, Townsville. Like, what the hell? Why? What do we get out of it?
It's like a far north Queensland ghetto.
It could be, yeah. But so our cities are bursting at the seams. We face a future of heavy congestion, serious housing affordability issues, and mounting cost of living pressures. And so how's he going to solve it? By providing a 20% tax concession incentive to people living more than 200 kilometres from a capital city. We can decentralise Australia, encouraging people to move or settle in regional areas.
I think he's central.
Why do we need that? If the regional areas were so appealing, people wouldn't need these incentives to move there, would they?
That's a good point.
No, we seem to have lost as a country the recognition that when it comes to infrastructure, sometimes you need to build it before the people get there. You can't just wait till the people spontaneously decide to move into the country to build roads.
To that?
Oh, that's right. We were saying, people choose to live out in where there's no public transport, and so if they find it difficult to get into the city, then fuck them. Sorry, I see if that wasn't an exact quote, but pretty much.
Yeah. So this has a bit of sort of standard. I've lost the word now.
Reductive, regressive populism. Was it?
Does this not count as populism?
So there's pork barreling and there's populism. There's pork barreling and there's regressiveness. So
we know Clive likes his pork barrel.
Oh, that's right. This bullshit.
Especially when it's crispy.
So they had, so viewers, I was reading it on the flight to Bali, actually. I was a bit worried people might mistake me for like a Clive Palmer voter, but then I figured
maybe on the way home when you're nice and pink.
But then, I figured if they see me like reading the pamphlet, though, wouldn't they think like, oh, he's reading? Is he really a, Clive Palmer voter? So.
And the rest of it is obviously zero immigration.
Well, it's
there's a narrative
inconsistent.
about blaming immigrants. On the social welfare, there's a narrative around blaming disability people for their
for being
the
disabled.
cost of being disabled. It's not that they can help that.
To be fair, there would be a few of them where they played a part in it.
Oh, look, there's a minority in any group for anything. But when you talk about
someone sticks their finger in the machine and it gets cut off, they played a part in becoming disabled.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that happens to everyone. Yeah,
no, but and this is why when you talk about politics,
would that be an example of regressive kind of politicking? Like on the disabled though, so like I was advocating to say, about disabled rights, and then he makes like this regressive comment to say, not all of them though, because some of them like fake it, blah blah blah. So then win populist opinion to downplay what I'm advocating for.
Yep.
I get it.
Okay.
This is why we do this.
We're making breakthroughs.
Yeah, particularly if you're then using that as an argument to make it harder for people who have with real disability to get access to support. So yes, absolutely.
You convinced me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The education thing has a narrative about foreign students basically being a problem.
It's ridiculous. They said he talks about zero immigration, and then they also talk about what's going to happen with foreign students. Like I thought you just ruled it out. So,
yeah, but then it's just standard pork barreling. Housing, repayment of national debt, zonal taxation for regions. It's just how can we give people some free stuff now so they like us as well. So it doesn't all sound like, we're blaming them and it's negative, blaming them and it's negative. And that's sort of the standard playbook. You have a mix of blame and blame and blame, and a mix of, and we'll give you some nice stuff.
Fair enough.
And look, when people are doing it tough, it works.
It was worth a try.
No offense.
Okay, how does this count as, let's call it, is it aspirational populism? What if we had a slogan?
It's aspirational.
What if we had a slogan, stop being poor?
No.
Is
that punching down?
Yes.
Yeah.
How about kill the rich?
Eat the rich?
I don't know. Depends how marbled they are. Clive Palmer would be marbled.
Well, that's...
He doesn't move a lot either. He'd be like prime, like, I don't know, a cross between veal and something else. I don't know, probably have to check the Epstein menu.
But in terms of, it's, I guess when people would hear the slogan "Stop being poor," I can imagine, some of the socialists in particular would be thinking like, fuck that guy. They would probably think I'm putting myself in the rich person category. I'm not. I'm putting myself in the poor category. You see, kings, 200 years ago, they lived with like less wealth than poor people have today in, a country like Australia, for instance.
Wow.
No, seriously,
You're bringing out the Jordan Peterson examples again.
Oh, didn't he talk about that? Okay.
No, but it's kind of the same level of, like using these analogies to make, examples in modern day history which have no relevance to today.
No, hang on. I will explain how it's relevant.
Make your bed and do this and blah, blah, blah. You two could be a man fucking 10 women like you're meant to. Because a king net worth was like only $120,000 equivalent, they live like just an ordinary wage life. So, the blah, blah, blah. What the fuck has that got to do with today?
Mate, you put these words in my mouth. I didn't say that. I just said, hang on, okay. Viewers,
I think that was the point you're trying to make.
Well, okay, so at the moment, we even, our great-grandparents, unless you're like Roma, then our great-grandparents had, they didn't have like hot water, showers, that sort of thing, all modern luxuries. But then, so going back to some points relevant to fusion. So I was listening to a podcast the other day. Viewers, I would recommend this one as well. It was called
jazz.
Steve Keen is on the podcast. Debunking Economics, that's right, yeah. Anyway, so he was chatting about how GDP growth is so connected to a growth in energy usage. And so, for the past while, we've had GDP growth at, say, 2.3%. It seems to be 2.3% per annum. And so you get exponential growth. And so, when we have, for instance, interest on loans, a lot of this stuff in our society is predicated on this assumption that we're going to keep growing. And then, obviously, like, governments are sort of all pressured to, like, keep the economy growing. And so, Steve Keen was saying that in order for this to happen, it basically means workers have to use more energy. There are only so many, productivity improvements. If we think of the steam engine, he gives the example, then, James Watt, all those efficiencies, like, it's become very efficient now. So
is this guy a technocrat?
If I recall correctly, he studied engineering and then he was an economics professor for a while.
Yeah.
You're saying he doesn't know what he's talking about?
Oh no, he believes he knows what he's talking about. Economics is a social science. Applying fucking engineering and mathematics to it, he can go fuck himself. That's what I'm saying.
I'm glad actually that someone recognizes it's a social science, because the number of people that I deal with who are like, economics is all math, and I'm like, if you don't understand people, economics, you'll never do anything.
And the only people that think it's not are those that, if they were at school back when our grandparents were, and even when I was, used to get fucking picked on, right? And now they've found a form because society has changed. And I'm not saying for the better. I wish I grew up at this time now, right?
When's that?
But the fact that they're now in charge and running things based on their social prowess, it is not how it should be. Because society should be run more as who we are as social beings. It isn't a mathematic.
Well,
it isn't a science.
To defend Steve Keen, he's not a typical economist.
Yeah, I know. That's my point.
No, but you're arguing against typical economists, saying that they...
No. I didn't say that. Tell him what I've said.
Oh, gosh. I don't know if I can paraphrase it
anyway,
so cleanly, but...
Drew, one of the points I was getting at was, humans can...
Sorry, and to apologise about this guy, I'm only basing it on what you've told me about him. He could be a perfectly great economist. So I have no idea who he is.
Okay, maybe I don't give the best summaries of people. Viewers, can you... By the way...
Pauline Hanson could be like... brilliant and hot.
Viewers, whenever I've asked you in the comments...
I have no idea who she is.
Viewers, whenever I've asked you to back me up on a point, it's very rare that you leave the comments backing me up.
Hence why I feel like I know everything.
Viewers, can you please back me up on this one? Steve Keen is a good economist. Anyway, but Drew, the question, okay. So Steve Keen was talking about...
Owen is right. SC.
Great job, Owen, well done.
SC.
Angus Taylor could be helping out there. So Drew, the point is, whenever we use energy, and often when we generate energy, that creates heat. So you think of like, no, it does.
I just know where this is going before you even said it, but continue.
Okay,
I'm going to let you do
it.
This
is not going to tie into global warming.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
I knew it.
It's not. It is not.
Is that not worth talking about?
I knew you were going to go there.
Well, that's one of fusion's main issues, global warming.
Look, global warming is not just because heat is generated. With the amount of heat that we generate on this planet from all of the global energy production combined is a tiny, tiny fraction of the amount that lands on the planet from the sun every single day.
Whoa, yeah, I agree. So at the moment, Steve was saying indeed that it's like you can just dismiss how much waste heat we produce. But if we're going to keep growing at 2.3% per year, that's 10 times per century. His prediction is that without global warming, just from the waste heat alone, in 250 years, the ocean is going to boil.
In how many years?
250.
It's going to boil. Boil. Say it again.
Boil. At the moment, people are panicking about, the Paris like 1.5 degrees. Here, it's going to get to the ocean boiling. That's
when it comes to heat that we are generating, it's not an overly difficult technical feat to work out ways to get rid of that heat. You can get rid of heat in a whole varieties of ways, and like as a technical problem, it's not that difficult. In 250 years, we might be generating a ton of waste heat, and I can assure you it will be not hard to get rid of a bunch of that waste heat just as easily. At the end of the day, global warming isn't really about the heat we produce, it's about the ability to radiate that heat out. Right? We have changed the atmosphere so that it doesn't let as much heat radiate out. And unfortunately, when that heat is coming from the sun and landing on the entire surface of the planet at all places, that's not a source of heat that we have any control over. So the only way that we can affect how well that is radiating back off of the planet is the composition of the atmosphere.
And what you did before, just now, is another sort of more intellectual, reductive, regressive component of that argument.
I don't follow it.
But you did it as a Netanyahu preemptive strike. So you went first and said, you know, if we all get productive, we generate heat, blah, blah, blah. So therefore productivity is adding to the global warming.
Yeah.
Now, if he had started first to say, well, global warming is generated because we create this, you know, cocoon, right, this glass house, and that the sun's heat comes in, can't escape, right? That's the cause. Now, what you're contributing based on your technocratic calculations of heat, yes, it contributes to it, but immaterial in comparison to this big star that's burning out there.
At the moment, sure.
But you could take this populist, pseudo-populist commentary and get people to follow who are like, you know what, we have to get rid of this heat, it's blah, 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 look, these are the facts.
Wait, sorry, you're saying anyone who's concerned about the world getting too hot is...
No, but it's where you pay your attention to, right? So it's either you stop burning and creating the things that are going to create that, or you say, no, we need to stop productivity, and it gets funneled in a different way instead of the right way.
So one of the conclusions was that we should have a space elevator so that we can... Well, let's discuss if it's a good idea now.
Well, I don't know about a space elevator, but it...
To where?
In terms of like...
To do what?
To do a GDP productivity in space.
Again, immaterial. The amount of energy you're going to burn, even fossil fuel stuff or whatever, to generate this elevator, right, to save this immaterial energy is going to be more than what you're going to be saving longitudinal in the forward years of this immaterial energy.
Yeah, no. At the moment, we use, you know, an immaterial amount of, you know, carbon to make the space elevator. Then,
look,
viewers, I need you back up.
Actually, sorry, if this means every technocratic kind of geek gets on this elevator to work in space, sign me up.
What about the Australian woman?
Yes,
can we send her?
everyone, all of you.
Okay.
We don't have difficulty moving around heat that we've created ourselves.
Off the planet, though.
If the space station can radiate heat to different fins to express it into space, we can build a tower and pump heat up the top of the tower and radiate it higher in the atmosphere above the things that are keeping it in and send that off to space. There are many different, well, I mean, you can use lasers, you can use all sorts of things to direct heat away in different ways. It's not that hard to move heat that we've created ourselves. We don't do a lot of it because we don't need to, because it's this much of the heat in the planet and it's, you know, expensive. But if we were 250 years from now producing God knows how many times the heat that we are producing now, well, then it might be a problem. But then we'd also have the productivity and the technology to get rid of it. We can get rid of the heat that we have now if we really, really wanted to, quite easily. We can already move the heat around that we have now. If we really wanted to, we could radiate a ton of the heat we produce into space now. It's not that hard. It's just, it's expensive and we don't need to now, so why are we bothering?
No, but to be fair, people like Bryony, our friend from the Vote Planet, so, you know, she would be up in arms against this situation. She rightly points out that many people, they have, you know, she was complaining about the Liberals' nuclear plan, for instance. You know, like, we'll be rich enough to solve this in the future, we'll get to it, then we don't need to worry about it. I mean, people have been saying that about, you know, just regular global warming like we have now. And, you know, we've got to 1.5 degrees of warming. We have, you know, heat waves killing people, storms killing people. What was this plan about doing it later?
It comes down to the method of intervention. If you have, hypothetically, in the future, some fancy high-tech power plant that happens to be producing a ton of waste heat, you can very easily go to the owner of that power plant with the government and the law and say, hey, either we're going to build this or you're going to build this to get rid of this heat. Right? It's got a direct...
Drew, this is ridiculous.
It's got a direct point of intervention because the heat is made in one place.
I'm getting bored. Can we move to something else?
Yeah.
The same is not true for climate change because the heat is produced by the sun and the problem is everywhere.
Because none of us can solve this, right?
Okay,
This is just waffle. So,
Okay.
They're just entirely different arguments.
whose micro penis is bigger here?
Okay.
Like it
Peter-
makes no difference.
Okay, we'll have to agree to disagree. Okay.
Because you know I don't recycle, so this doesn't matter.
Viewers, can you back me up on this point as well? I really need to. Anyway, okay. Well, Drew, I have a quote for you. We like to play a game. We have a political quote. You have to guess who said it, and we talk about how much we agree with it.
Okay.
This one's hard today, viewers.
Oh no.
So the quote is: "Democracy is entirely indistinguishable from national sovereignty."
Well, I like that because that kind of means whatever your government is, that's what you call your. Because you're responsible for the government you have.
Exactly. So
you can't absolve yourself from the government you deserve and what you've got. So that's your fucking pseudo-democracy, as if this one is, right?
Is this an Australian quote?
No. European in the last 100 years. But don't you
Berlusconi.
But don't you like for me the idea of national sovereignty? I think of it, like we control the destiny of our nation. You know, there's no.
If there is such a thing.
Oh, okay.
Well, it is. It's like what is the nation state, right? It's just a business that's set up for consumers to create debt.
Peter, you've gone very radical today.
That's what it always is. The nation state's a new phenomenon. Like it started with the Magna Carta being signed and being forced, and it's only been around for a couple hundred years.
No, sure, but I mean, the whole point of our podcast was to motivate people. Start a party.
No, I don't think party. I think they need to get revolutionised and chop people's heads off.
But
fuck this.
Sorry, can't we at least agree on the premise that people need to be, politically active, aware?
Yeah, sure, but you also know my view that 60% of the population just walk around in an unconscious state. So you can't convince them of anything different. Sure, we're appealing to maybe the top 20%.
Well, they say you only need 15% of the population to have a revolution. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So somewhere in that top 20%, hopefully we get them. And because the bottom 20%, they generally go whichever way, you kind of lead the carrot. So you might be able to steer them if they don't go towards fascism.
I've heard, not just the 15% for a revolution, but 3% for any sort of war, uprising. I mean, it's a common stat that gets thrown around in the American War of Independence against Britain. I think what gets thrown around is 3% of Americans joined the war effort.
Oh, as a mobilization.
Yeah, but then I guess to be fair, they also had the support of France. But there are
French went in a war?
Yeah, they helped out the Americans. Yeah.
When you're talking about a war and mobilization, there's also the fact that you need supply chains, you need logistics, you need materials, you need a whole production chain behind your war effort. So you actually can't mobilize. There's an upper limit to how much of your population you can mobilize, because the rest of them are needed to make everything else
happened
that
in
supports them.
Stalingrad. Yeah.
But yeah, 3% is a pretty solid mobilization rate.
Well, yeah, who knows how many people would fight if Australia was in a war now?
You would. You've made that point pretty clear.
Oh, I'm getting more reluctant.
That depends what you're fighting for.
Or, these people, I don't know, too many people, if people don't have the loyalty to really care about the future. I mean, so for instance, people leaving Ukraine. I happened to meet... This is a story I tell all the time. I told you the story once.
Yeah, I know, but where it went.
Anyway, so I met a guy in Brunswick. He was in his 20s, and then he said he's from Ukraine. And I said, oh, that's odd. I thought everyone was joining the military there. Oh, no, I don't want to fight. But, he was keen for Ukraine to win the war. And he was, a fit man in his 20s, but he wasn't going to fight in the war. And so it's well, you obviously don't want Ukraine to win very bad. Who's meant to join? If you're not joining... Who's supposed to?
Well, I said to Owen, not everyone, believes in this, militarization of, what goes on and fighting just out of principle. So you want to sort of understand what's going on. Just because what the media that we see here, it doesn't mean that's the truth of what's going on over there as well.
Sure, but shouldn't this guy logically say oh yeah, Ukraine was good, but I don't care about it.
That's your version of what I've just said, right? Like the politics is even going on in the Ukraine. It's far more, there's a lot more nuances than just Russia invaded, Ukraine's got to fight. Look, there's lots of stuff going on. There's people now protesting there, youth protesting there about the conscription that's going on. So it's not as simple as, Zelensky's, the man that's going on. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in countries like that. It isn't because I'm a fifth generation Australian. I'm now Australian. Like the world is a lot more. No, I'm saying it's a lot more diverse that goes on over there, and lots of, historical issues that would be in his cultural background that he obviously wouldn't have been bothered to explain.
And there are sort of two things that really come into like involvement in war. So one of them is whether or not the system is actually one that you have a future in. So at the moment, many people in Australia, for example, are very upset at the system because it seems to be failing large swaths of the population. So you're not going to convince those people to go to fight for Australia in a war because they don't actually see this as the system that this country is currently running on as one that's working for them. Why would you defend that? But the other thing is like the nature of war keeps changing. We have this sort of social idea of war being a thing that young men go off to do. But more and more in the modern world, like foot soldiers are not how war is fought. War is fought largely remotely with drones and other sort of mechanical systems, and you need people who are experienced and skilled operators for things like ground-to-air missile systems and so on and so forth.
I guess, and not just these weapons. War is a continuation of politics by other means.
Exactly. Ukraine in particular and Russia, right, they both come from sort of a historical point in time where they lost an enormous swath of their young men. I don't know if you've ever looked at the stats for casualties.
World War II, you mean?
World War II. That fundamentally changes a culture's idea of what is acceptable in war. They took decades to even begin to recover from the population demographic loss and shift that occurred as a result of the 20 million young men who died from Russia. Right? And a lot of them were from Ukraine because it was all the US.
The front.
Right? That's a huge thing that affects your culture, that affects what you consider acceptable for people to do in war. Why would you send off all your young men to war again if your country is still culturally recovering from that 100 years later?
Well, actually, I'm thinking about the country's reactions to World War II and the aftermath. I guess we're getting very close to who said the quote, by the way. You can probably get it. I mean, think about it. So which country?
Roosevelt.
I would say it's close. But which country would talk about national sovereignty and democracy?
Well, I had previously been thinking it was going to be either the US or Italy.
I thought Italy too. That's why I said I was going jokingly because my mind went to Italy as well.
Anyway, viewers, it's Charles de Gaulle from France.
Oh, okay. Charles always gets me. He's got all the weird quotes from France.
Oh, okay. But I like this idea. But the whole idea of national sovereignty, people buying into what our future should be, when we were going through these pamphlets before, I guess viewers, some of my most hated ones, is she still kicking? Yeah, I think she's kicking. Look at this. Rashina Campbell, she was my opponent in Aston. A strong voice for Aston. That's it. You saw this on the billboards everywhere.
What party?
The Liberal. Okay. Just, her name, Rashina, she's smiling. A strong voice for Aston. That is enough. She came a very close second. Just a fucking slogan. I had dot points, all the policies. But people don't vote for dot points, they vote for just this bullshit. So.
Well, people vote either for a voice or an agent.
Speaking of bullshit, I got a question. So I've met a few people in the Fusion Party thus far. And, present company excluded, I find you two are rather articulate with what your views are.
Thank you, Peter.
I'll sanction you two to be part of your union. Is that the term the Fusion Party uses when people join? You're now part of the union, the fused union of the party.
I don't know that we have a term. Maybe we'll have to workshop that.
Well, you're free to borrow that as a spitball item.
Thank you, Peter.
Now, I have met a couple of your other members, appendages, should I call him or her. One particular fellow, I'm not sure if he is Jewish, it makes no difference, but he was proposing to me your policy on Israel-Palestine. And when I then asked him, are you a Zionist by any chance? He got quite animated and offended, but he didn't, he actually almost doubled down and defended it. And I was like, come on the podcast and defend and tell me about your policy, because I said, it's not just, talk about regressive. It was like extremely regressive, not just from a political perspective, but even just from a social perspective. He got very offended at that point. He hasn't come on, but my point is, like, what principles, because I like the term principle, because you don't need rules, anyone can work around a rule. Principles are different. Govern who determines your policies, because that was like, I said to him, fuck.
Well, look, because I know who you're talking about. The person in question has largely stepped away from involvement with the party at the moment, because that did run them into conflicts with multiple people.
The principle of my question still stands.
So all of our principles are published on our website very deliberately, because we have a core value of ethical transparency. So all of those principles are there precisely so that A, anyone who's looking at us can see what we're about, and B, if we've gone down a rabbit hole and we're posting some policy or some position that maybe someone's thought about but not really thought about with the full context, someone else can look at our principles and look at that statement and go, hang on, these don't match up. You guys should look at that. And we can go,
I said to him.
We need to go deal with that. And so that's why all of our principles are public. That's why all of that's put out there, because we explicitly expect to be held accountable to them. And sometimes people have to go on a bit of a personal journey to work out how they reconcile things when they stumble across personal inconsistencies in their principles about what they believe and what they say.
I think he was saying what he believed. That was the issue, but may not have been in line with the Fusion Party's possibly principles.
I mean, the plan never got endorsed as Fusion policy yet.
Oh, it hasn't?
No.
Oh, it didn't. I didn't think it did. Yeah.
No, it didn't.
Okay. Didn't make any sense to me.
The other thing is communication. Like your own ability to reconcile your principles and work out where you stand is to some degree a function of your ability to communicate. Because if you can't process those things to talk about them, you also can't process
that's
them.
That's what I said to him, funnily enough, at dinner. I said to him, the reason you're upset now is because you don't know what I'm saying to you. You can't understand what I'm saying to you, but you're smart enough to know that I'm right, and that's why you're getting upset, which invariably got him further upset. And
I wouldn't have gone about it quite that way.
No, that's where it led to, because he went from obtuse to insulting. And I said, you continue that way, but you want to go at me like that next time? Come prepared. Why don't you come on the show?
This is the thing also about like volunteer-driven politics, is people come to you at the time that they're at. They are generally not well practiced at communication. They have generally not examined more than a handful of like core values that they actually care about and the positions associated. They're not highly literate about, at least not in terms of talking and communicating and reconciling different things. That's a skill that you develop over time. It's a skill you practice in politics or in any organizing. And people, they take time to do that. You don't just learn how to do these things overnight. So
I noticed actually one of the things, viewers, you might not be aware of it, but the Fusion Party, we get a ton of emails from people outside Fusion who have already come up with policies ready for us. And, let's just say many of them are crazy. Has there ever been, I've only been really involved in Fusion for 4 years now, but do you ever remember any of these good policies coming through the emails? Oh wait, no, my whistleblowing friend, he came to us through email.
Yes,
Gary, if you're watching.
Yes.
Look at the guy we had a discussion with. They wanted to
Which
join
ones?
your party.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Here we
Sorry,
are.
it's just there are quite a few crazy ones in there as well.
Yes,
There was
there are.
this guy the other day, he was saying, they're injecting chemicals in our teeth to like the 5G. No, he was for real.
How do you inject into teeth?
I don't know. He was saying all the dentists are on board with it. Well, our mate, the dentist, he might be.
Who's our mate, the dentist?
One of our neighbours.
Oh my god!
What do you
Is it
think?
safe? Is it safe? Like seriously, he's the Nazi from the Marathon Man.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Marathon Man?
Not yet.
You got to see. Like you haven't seen so many movies. I've got to show you the
Well,
Marathon
you're
Man.
careful. Don't get yourself done for slander on the podcast.
Viewers,
here.
you got to watch out if you go to the dentist.
No,
They're
he's
gonna put
racist.
A chemical.
This guy is
substance.
racist. Right. He's got a P. Where is the pin? Saying we're full.
Yeah.
So he's probably injecting the dentistry to anyone who's not white enough.
But because they've got some financial issues at the moment, he's probably just on 3G.
Could
Oh
be.
dear.
But no, but I guess Drew, the point I want to get
That's
at
'cause we're out,
is
yep.
viewers, if you want to send us some good ideas to the Fusion Party, some new policies that, especially if it's something we haven't already considered, because I guess, there were, when I was writing the housing policy, there were quite a few people, this was a Fusion member actually, so I can't talk too badly about him, but he was saying that
Or her.
anyway, we have there's a lot of council car parks, and not many people park there. So we should use that land and turn it into housing. And I asked, well, where will people park? I thought that was the most obvious question to come from this, and he hadn't thought of that.
Won't someone think of the giant koalas?
Yeah, look, the nature of politics is that everyone has an opinion, and the art of politics is working out how to address those opinions in a way that is actually constructive. We do get various people email us.
Or as Albanese would say, all of the above.
Doesn't he?
Yeah, when he was asked about Kylie.
Oh, yeah, that's
Like,
right.
seriously, I give you punchlines like champagne comedy, and you have to explain them.
But anyway, okay, so Drew, what sort of people should be writing to Fusion? What sort of people should be joining Fusion?
Look, I'm not going to, specify
president.
what should be done. What I want to say is, if you're going to write some sort of policy to us, ideally you should be able to look at the principles which we have published publicly for a reason and say, these things connect together, and this is, I believe, is a policy that is supported by these things. That gives you a basis from which to start a discussion.
Hashtag fuck Israel.
Okay, wow. No, I mean, I don't disagree,
Okay.
but like,
Oh, that's all part of the policy.
well, I mean, we can only link that to so many of our policies, can't we?
There's a
I
responsible
guess, our
foreign
housing
policy
policy,
one in there somewhere.
everybody has the right to a home, except you only get your own home, you don't get someone else's home.
Like Far North Queensland, you can't come and build here. Gina's policy out.
Yeah. If you can link a policy to our established principles, it's then much easier to have a conversation about it in a constructive way. We get about one or two of those sorts of policies emailed to us a year, which is usually quite nice. And then we get about 30 other people sending us laundry lists of 70 crackpot ideas.
Who reads them?
Unfortunately, me.
I had sense before when you said you weren't interested in the other conversation I was having.
Well,
you probably just haven't got time. You're just reading these documents.
there's a bit of that
You should
sometimes.
get some AI to kind of like give me the good one, and then you go out and join us.
But what about the Omni Party? We were chatting with Andrew Andreu recently. He absorbs all ideas.
And then after then they determine what's the best one, but they just take everything on to begin with.
Well, actually, what's happening? He was saying about the certification process, people
Yes.
being certified as Semitic. I wonder if that's getting going
We've
now.
got to catch up with it.
That's
Yeah.
very interesting. But whenever I come across a group that talks about, we take all ideas and then sort of look at it later, it always brings to mind a quote, which is like, it is important to have an open mind, but be wary not to open it so far that your brain falls out.
I see.
I find groups that are like, hey, we take all ideas, we open up, and then we put them all down, and then sort of we work it out. It tends to be the sort of group there where you give airtime to enough crazy ideas that serious people stop engaging, and then only crazy people actually continue to engage and choose what gets adopted.
I think though to his
I say crazy. I don't
yeah,
want
no,
to-
but I think to his credit, the thing that kind of resonated for me was that each person or representative represents their constituents' ideas. So it's not like, let's say we're part of the Omni Party, Owen's in Brunswick and I'm in Caroline Springs, he and I won't necessarily have the same Omni Party policies because I'll be representing my area's interests.
Okay, that's a different model.
Now, we may have some principles that are aligned exactly like, yeah, we take that on, blah, blah, blah. They're the guiding principles. But I still represent my people's main interests first and foremost because they are my people. That's what they're telling me they want. Now, obviously, there's some guiding principles of, as in guiding principles, but overall, they are the main priority.
I mean, that mostly sounds like a party of independence by another name. But
guided by governing principles,
Well, look, if he's...
But first and foremost, the key part of that is we're not here to tell you this is just what we're going to do. First and foremost, we take on everything. And then after we do that, then we'll determine what is, I guess, material, immaterial, and so forth. Consequences.
Well, if they've got a robust approach for that,
it sounded like sounds like an astute businessman. He's got that. What do you say? He's got in Cyprus that business accreditation.
He sounds like a pretty successful entrepreneur.
He's got some stuff with some Belarus business guys. As he was saying.
But anyway, so I guess Drew, to differentiate, I guess like being open, being accepting all ideas. What would you tell let's say people in Victoria who are thinking in the lead up to the state election, if they're thinking about what party to join and that, how would you pitch them? What are the principles like why you should join Fusion in Victoria?
What about get this guy running again?
Look, I think. I'm not a Victorian, so I don't want to speak for Victorians, but the sense that I hear from sort of over the border is that people in Victoria don't feel like their system is working for them and that there is no one in their system who is really providing a constructive vision of how to build a functional future.
It's because all the construction money is going to the hookers.
Like I said, not a Victorian, not going to get into the weed. This is the vibe, essentially, that I hear from across the border. So to that point, look, effective representation, effective community engagement with politics is essential for functional solutions that actually build people's communities in ways that they want and that are conducive to their lives. We're coming to the state election with a whole bunch of democratic reform policy that is explicitly meant to increase people's ability to engage and see their own sort of objectives and needs represented in politics. So I think we are bringing an answer to the problem as far as I hear.
Hopefully some new candidates too.
Yes, we've hopefully got a fair few in the northern region.
Oh.
Okay.
Big parties at Owen's coming up.
They're a bit far away. If they come here, they're
you said northern regions.
No, we're in the north of Melbourne. Drew's talking about north of Victoria.
Oh,
so hopefully
you have nuclear power out there.
I would be prepared to have nuclear power just there. Anyway, viewers, you can't see, but I was pointing.
Moss won't like that. The glow at night.
Anyway, viewers, we can't chat forever. Drew, great having you today.
Thank you.
Okay.